Time now for this week's Health Matters. Lynn Szabo, PA, at the microphone here, along with myself and Mike Thornton. And we've got some drugs to talk about.
Yeah, new drug.
New drug?
Yeah, kind of showed up in the announcements. Pfizer made an announcement about it on 12/14, so really exciting. And it's hard to say, but I think it's a cool name.
Okay, let's hear
if
it.
you think about it. And actually, anybody listening should probably get paper and pen and write this down. So it's Paxlovid. So Paxlovid.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an interesting name, which is actually a combination drug. So it's a protease inhibitor combination drug. And it's, this one's going to be hard, nirmatrelvir and ritonavir.
Okay.
Now, ritonavir is probably maybe familiar to people as a protease inhibitor used in combination with anti-HIV drugs.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool. It acts on the enzyme that replicates the virus in the cell.
Okay, so here's a dumb question. Well, so are all protease inhibitors antivirals?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't think I can think of one that isn't.
I've just, in all the years protease inhibitors have been around, I've never heard that like one-to-one. Oh, that's an antiviral med. I always understood it as being like an anti-HIV thing, which would make sense because that's a virus, but I just now put that all together.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually it started with HIV and understanding an HIV and then moved on to other viruses.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So the active drug is nirmatrelvir. I think I'm saying it right. And the ritonavir is kind of cool. It makes the active drug work better and at higher concentrations for longer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
okay.
it's kind of a
booster, huh?
a support drug, yeah. So, and it looks like it's being dosed at 150 BID. But the study is the interesting part. I said that in medical talk, and people might now recognize that. It's 150 milligrams twice daily.
Okay, is that what BID means?
That's what BID
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, so sorry, I slipped into my native language. So
I was just trying to pretend like I knew what it was, and that's not what a host should do in a situation like this. Thank you.
But you did sound really cool. So okay, so the study that that was being publicized here. So 2,246 adult patients, all with one risk factor for severe disease. And they started the meds. So they got COVID. They were diagnosed with COVID, started the meds within 3 days of the onset of symptoms. And what was amazing is they recorded a 10-fold decrease in the viral load. So this is a kind of elegant little way of looking at viral diseases that HIV taught us. So HIV in the beginning, before they had protease inhibitors, they looked at all kinds of blood markers to try and figure out what would tell us whether the virus was doing well or whether it was not whether our interventions were working. And finally, what came out as the best way to look at it was actually the number of viral particles per unit of blood. So
Okay.
super elegant. And once they got that, I mean, the rest was kind of off and running.
And that's viral load, right?
Viral load.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And so when people with HIV will talk about they have an undetectable viral load, so that's what you want because it means there's no evidence of the virus. So they're looks like they're extrapolating this lesson learned to COVID, and they're able to say that the active ingredient in this drug combo is lowering viral loads by 10-fold decrease. So that's awesome. And what that means in real life, 88% decreased hospitalizations or death at 28 days after diagnosis compared with placebo.
Wow.
So remember we talked about molnupiravir, and we were all excited because it was 33% decrease or 30% decrease. This is 88%.
Man.
Yeah, so
Okay.
molnupiravir is now turning into the J&J of antivirals.
I'm sorry. That's just that has become like a term now. That's a slam.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like an also
That guy's the J&J of basketball players.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and as we were talking the other day, the CDC has come out formally recommending that if other vaccinations are available, that people choose those over J&J. So J&J is quickly becoming the unwanted stepchild.
Right. And actually, if unfortunately, if you're one of the people out there who got a J&J and you haven't heard that you need a second J&J, or better yet, an upgrade to a messenger RNA vaccine, we're in a constant mission to remind you that.
And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the people who were favoring J&J are the folks most at risk for higher levels of discomfort and death from COVID anyway.
Right.
People of color and poor people who just, one shot and I got to get back to work and that kind of thing. So,
Right.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
and so our understanding of this virus changes. So 12 deaths were reported in this study, and they all came from the placebo group.
That is just not the group to be in.
Yeah, which if you choose to do nothing, you're always at control. Okay.
Oh my God, they just summed up my life. Wow.
Wow.
Perpetually part of the control group.
If you don't look at it, then it doesn't exist in the quantum
Sure.
field and you're in charge. Yeah, that's exactly.
So there is no increase in adverse effects compared with placebo, which is super good to hear.
What sorts of adverse effects are you talking about there?
I actually didn't see any mention, but I imagine
Like just the usual side
Yeah.
effects and things of
commonly side effects of drugs. I mean, there's like 10 that commonly happen. Nausea, vomiting are usually one. Headache might be one. Muscle aches might be one. But I don't have specific knowledge.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Do you think it's something, because I think the media does it, it seems like a lot of medical practitioners do it, keep talking about side effects, particularly with the vaccination, when they really mean, as you've explained on many occasions, that what gets talked about as side effects are actually signs of a robust
Immune response.
immune response,
Right.
which really are not, I mean, they're just talked about as though they're a negative, when in reality, they're actually quite positive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you were a fly on the wall in the room where the providers were talking about their initial vaccine experiences, we were all ecstatic. Well, my temp was 103.
Right.
My arm hurt a lot.
I was really tired.
I know.
Yeah.
And you know what? I had a swollen lymph node.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that most people in the public, they just hear all this thing kind
Right.
of lumped together as
Yeah.
side effects and as being negative.
Yeah, and actually, they do oftentimes question whether the virus or whether the vaccine has given them the virus,
Yeah.
which is not possible. Okay, so they also had a companion study where they looked at the start of the drug within 5 days of the onset of symptoms. So they got similar numbers. But this mostly applies to patients who had Delta. Okay. But in vivo, so in the laboratory, they're getting some good results with Omicron. So
Are
they're
you-
thinking it could be helpful for that too?
Are you able to address even at very high levels so that I can understand it? The difference in the way that, say, a protease inhibitor and a vaccination. I mean, what are they still attacking the spike proteins? Do they both do the same thing? What's the different
No, this
avenue?
is what's so cool about it. This is an important subtlety. So the vaccination attacks the spike protein, so it keeps the virus from infecting the cell. This protease inhibitor, once the virus is in the cell, and remember, it's trying to get the ribosomes to make new viruses.
Yes.
It just throws like the brakes on that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not. So that's why it in the lab it seems to have results against Omicron. Omicron is because it's
Right. They're not looking at antibody formation. They're looking at they're probably putting the virus into a cell, living cell culture, and then adding the drug and seeing if the virus stops replicating. So and they're measuring that by viral load.
okay.
So the one thing, as we learn more about the life cycle of these different variants of concern, there's more places where you can put the brakes on it. Okay, so that's super important to know. And that's probably going to change a little bit every time you get a new variant of concern.
Well, that was going to be my question, is that I understand limiting the ability of the virus to replicate within inside the body. How long can the virus exist if it's not replicating? I mean, does it
In the
die?
body?
Does it die quickly, or can it lay
In the body, or
dormant
like
in the
on
body?
your DoorDash food, or like what?
I think in the body.
In the body?
Yes.
I don't think that it goes into kind of suspended animation state. So the virus's whole goal, whole being for life is to create more viruses.
So it's either replicating or it dies.
Yeah, or it's dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, viruses are weird.
So,
man.
HIV was a little different. So HIV would go in the cells and just hang out. So I think is that
Yeah, that
question
was my question, because I was wondering if once it's already replicated to whatever degree it has after you've contacted it, and then these protease inhibitors are stopping it from replicating more,
right.
how can what's already been replicated remain alive and a possible problem for someone down the road?
So
That's what I'm trying to understand.
If the virus goes into the cell, and let's say this is an unvaccinated person who's not who takes the meds, then there's not going to be any virus really that gets around. There'll be a little bit of resistance, but there'll be low levels of virus, and at that point in the bloodstream, and then after it's been replicated, and then the antibodies, developing antibodies, the person's own innate immune system will start going after that.
see.
But the thing with Omicron is there's a huge amount of it in the upper respiratory tract, and by then that person's already like coughing it, or actually not coughing it. We'll talk about that in a minute, but already passing it on. So that's why it's good to have multiple methods to put the brakes on this, because if it goes around one, you can trip it up with another.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting.
It is. It's super exciting. I know nothing about the price, and you guys might remember from HIV when protease inhibitors came out, they were obscenely expensive. And this isn't something you have to be on forever, though. This has a course of therapy, and it's unknown to me.
It sounds like a good goal would be for everyone, every household, to have a supply of a drug like this. I mean, I'm not saying in lieu of getting vaccinated. I mean, I think everybody needs to do that first.
Right, you need to maximize your resources.
Right, but having some appropriate supply of this drug and an appropriate supply of testing kits.
Right. So Omicron can go around the screening test a little bit. And so that's actually, some countries are better at screening than others. Denmark, for example, has their thing together, and their numbers are like the highest in the world right now. And it's mostly because they've got their testing together. United States never really had its testing together. And so, again, there's no data really to understand what's going on here at this moment like they have in Denmark. I think, though, that let me go on and give you some doctor tips about
That would be good.
what to do, because it's coming to a county near you.
Now this is something, the next section here in your notes about how to get through the Omicron wave, and I mean that's basically a fait accompli. We're sort of sitting waiting for it to kind of happen. What's happening around the rest of the world? I'm not even sure I know.
South Africa has really high levels right now. England has super high levels, and I think this has only been like less than a month, about 3 weeks since the discovery of the variant. So in London, I think 50% of sick people actually have Omicron right now. So it went from 0 to 50% in London. I think it's 90 in South Africa.
Yeah.
Denmark is off the rails.
Are they finding their healthcare systems heavily impacted in Denmark?
No.
Yeah. Huh.
And Japan, oddly enough, is like virtually unaffected.
Really, that's interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Japan is an interest because they're not down with vaccination. I'm not sure. I think their rates are about the same as we are in Delaware County.
Right, but you know what they do is they have a cultural acceptance of masking.
Masking, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's what they're doing right. But they're also an island nation, and I don't know what their
seem to
their
do better.
Inflow outflow is.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wait for this wave to sort of swell and crest over us, what can we do? What can we do to prepare?
So we've talked about this before. Vaccination, number one, most important. If you're due for a third jab, get it. If a little bit of information on fourth jab. So it's kind of buried in a CDC recommendation that people with immunocompromised, and they're not really more specific than that, should talk to their doctor about getting their 4th jab 6 months after their 3rd jab.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. And you have the ability to choose what jab you want, and the insider intel is on Moderna. And the cool thing is that the Moderna 4th jab is actually a half a dose.
Okay.
So as far as side effects, which aren't really side effects, they're good immune responses. Apparently, it's a little more tolerable for people if that's important to them.
Okay.
But what else do we do? So vitamin D3, I've been, and UHS kind of does this anyway routinely, get vitamin D3 levels on people. Del Norte County in the winter is kind of everybody's too low, but definitely supplement with it. And then in the dosing, you can talk to your own doctor about it because it is possible to overdo it, but it is easily available over the counter.
We often say, talk to your own doctor about things like that. And there are a lot of people out there, myself included, until recently. I just didn't really have a doctor to talk to, just a clinic baby going when I was sick, things like that. Is there any sort of rule of thumb for people who might not have a primary care physician to get a hold of and ask about things like vitamin D levels and doses?
Yeah, you could probably still call the clinics, but talk to the nurses.
Okay,
the nurses can give good health information out. And then that opens the door actually to getting a doctor, which is a separate thing that people should be doing anyway. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Nurses are super helpful.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to call you back.
Okay.
Then there's that.
That's true, too.
Yeah. But the nurses at Open Door, the nurses at UHS, I have a feeling that they would call you back even if you weren't a patient. But the information, if you weren't a patient at UHS and you called them, I think they would call you back, give you generalized information, and then tell you to go see your usual doctor. Stellent Health, of course, is coming. It's across the street from Sutter. It's in where the old Sutter walk-in clinic was. They're going to be opening, I think, the end of January, beginning of February.
Okay.
And they're actually quite receptive to information and, handing it out to the public. And they're trying to make it as easy as possible. So that's kind of another new exciting resource.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
You may be getting ready to address this, but in addition to vitamin D, is there a supplement kind of regimen that may help?
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. I think it's something we've been doing, healthcare providers been doing since the beginning, but now I'm seeing signs that community is on board with it. So zinc is the next important one. You should probably do about 30 milligrams a day for zinc. If you get too much zinc, you can get a copper deficiency. So, but if you went to Wild Rivers and looked at zinc tablets, or I assume the same at the other pharmacies in Walmart and Safeway, it seems to come in 40s.
Okay.
If you got 40s, I think I would do one a day for weekdays, maybe.
40s meaning what, milligrams?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once a day. Okay.
All right.
And
what's Zinc do? Because I know you've talked about zinc since the
zinc
beginning
is
of
kind of it's kind of what's in airborne and things like that. And it kind of keeps the virus from going into the cell. It helps the cell maximize its viral protection strategy. But the cool thing is it's a little hard to get into the cell. And so there's a helper drug, another helper drug called Quercetin.
Okay.
Quercitin. And what I'm noticing at Wild Rivers is that they have a highlighted display of it, so they must be getting people asking for it.
Interesting.
It's a bioflavonoid, and it's kind of a helper drug to zinc to get it inside the cell.
Okay.
And then what happens is that plugs the receptors a little bit, so the virus can't actually enter the cell.
Wow. All right.
Okay. So there's no real good dosing on that.
Okay, it was my next question. Is just see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of expensive too. but I don't think buying the most expensive one is necessarily buying the best one.
It's kind of interesting. It sounds like between the zinc and how do you say this? What is this?
Quercetin.
Quercetin. It's like you're I don't know, girding your cells in some sort of armor.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, healthcare providers have been doing this since March of 2020, and I don't think we tell patients that.
I've heard, and I've also seen things about, this was last year before, just a little something when, an article somewhere, and I don't remember from where, but they were questioning like the role of zinc. But then I'm turning around, I'm going, okay, just about every healthcare provider I know is going, no, you should take some zinc. I'm like, wow.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, how you can take Tylenol and ibuprofen together for pain if you don't have any contraindications to that. And they seem to work synergistically, kind of like 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
That was a doctor's secret for like 20 years.
Really?
And we never mentioned it to patients. And now it's standard recommendation. I don't know why we don't tell people, but back in March 2020, when we saw this wave coming and we didn't have immunizations and we knew we were on the front line of it, even doctors who poo-poo vitamins and stuff, they were all about it.
Right.
So I guess fear is a motivator.
Even among doctors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always interesting to ask your doctor what they're personally doing. We talked about forest bathing, what that means in Delaware County is just going out and walking in the redwoods. So if you a 30-minute walk in the forest here can help your innate immune system, so the important initial defense, for about a month.
Wow.
Yeah,
like that's
isn't it
science? That's known?
That's
a
total
proven
science.
thing?
That's hot science from Japan from about 20 years ago. That was
damned.
ignored in the United States, but really important. Maybe that's why Japan's like
They're out walking in the forest.
doing
I think.
okay.
So, without going too far over my head, what is the science? Because I understand it's cool. It makes me feel relaxed.
Sounds woo-woo, but this is all data-driven. So apparently trees are more interactive with their environments than you would think. So they actually, their root systems kind of communicate with each other, even through different species. They kind of like loan chemicals and stuff through their root system, like Redwood tree A says to, I don't know, other tree B, hey, send over a little bit of this chemical or this mineral or something. And so they live in harmony like that. So one of the things they do, and this was first measured in Japan, is they give off chemicals that people walking by can breathe in. And what happens is there's a strong immune response to those chemicals in a good way. And it specifically targets the innate immune system, which is our first line of defense. And it apparently is a durable response. Now, the paper cites Japanese yew as the most, health beneficial tree.
That's awesome.
So we
Because it was
don't
in Japan,
have these here,
Right.
at least not that I know about. So, but they said in the papers that I read about it is that it's kind of like a forest response. So some trees more than others, but it's apparently an immune booster.
Wow.
Another reason to love our trees. Go hug them.
And as long as we don't have to keep feeding the voracious needs of the capital for Christmas trees, we might have some.
Yeah, then there's that. So controlling comorbidities, this is another thing that's recommended all the time, and it frustrates patients to no end, but that's like get your sugars down, make your blood pressure better, watch your weight, exercise like you're supposed to, all that kind of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, if you're walking in the forest, so that's exercise. So
All of this just gets in the way of my depression. So
this is actually a treatment for depression. Yeah. So
How do you think I felt when I read that one of the reasons that COVID affects people who are overweight is because it actually attacks the fat cells. So the more fat cells you have, the more target-rich environment you have.
that's actually not true.
That's not true.
no, it's
Okay.
because
Gonna
it's
miss,
because
yeah.
we're
Oh, okay.
slower.
There's that, yeah. But that's the thing. I don't have to be able to outrun the bear.
Yeah,
I only have to be able to outrun you.
No. So fat's not a very inert thing, and I think it's just.
Well, but
more-
I know I did hear that.
I
But it
know.
might not be true.
I know people ask me that a lot.
Okay.
So I think it's more like an inflammatory reaction.
Okay.
So, but I don't have the details. So masking and social distancing, that's important.
Just the way of
And
life
we
going
already know
forward.
that. High quality of sleep, super important. And especially the first 2 hours after you go to sleep, that's when you're getting the most immune benefit.
I find it's like I have insight into this. Anecdotal. I was super sore from working out or doing something. I forget what. Like I can't. My age, I just wake up sore. But so I went to bed, and I know, all right, I'm going to go to sleep. This is restorative. I'm going to feel better. I woke up like 3/4 of the night through to go to the bathroom. Right, felt worse. I got up and my foot just felt. I'd been running, and I felt like I'd bruised my foot, and I'm limping around at like 4 a.m. And I'm going, oh man, today's gonna suck. I go back to sleep for another three hours or so. Wake up, and I'm all better.
Yeah.
So I think it's the last
Sleep.
3 hours.
Oh, that's all right. Well, that's good. I'm glad that worked for you.
I'm glad it worked for me too. I was like counting on the sleep, and then I thought it was letting me down, and no, it turned out it was all right.
It was the bathing in the ambiance of Elk Valley Road in the middle of the night. That's
That's what we want,
Well,
yeah.
that might be true too.
Elk
You
Valley
sleep
Road
with your
bathing.
window open?
No.
Maybe we shouldn't announce that.
Actually, no. All summer long, as much as I can, I sleep with the window open. Yes, I love that. But
So
yeah,
I
but then I get guys getting up at 4 a.m. with their dogs.
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Or having long conversations with Don Ritter when he's coming in for his show.
Well, there's that. Yes, it's hard to have anything other than a long.
All right, we're getting off this. Sorry, Len Szabo. Health matters. Oh, hey, look at that. We're everything's holding together time-wise. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So Omicron, have we decided how we're going to say this? Omicron? Omicron?
Say Omicron.
Omicron. I like that better. Omicron sounds like lowbrow. Omicron sounds more science. Omicron's coming. But Delta, that doesn't mean Delta has gone away, right?
No, but Omicron is going to displace Delta. So that's what they're seeing in other countries. That's what happened in Africa. I mean, it displaced it in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So
And is it holding? Is the coronavirus holding, or COVID-19 holding together? Like it, when you have, like, say, a deadly disease, it seems that over time, as it adapts, as it evolves, and selects, that viruses, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm perceiving this wrong, historically get less deadly.
right, that's their whole point.
Right. You don't want to
Right.
kill the host.
And so that would segue right into the next thing I actually wanted to say. It's how are symptoms different? Because this is a challenge for a provider, and patients can help us if they have some knowledge base here. So when we think of Delta, we think of lung, terrible lung, horrible cough, brain fog, muscle aches and stuff. So what they're seeing in South Africa is really kind of different. They're seeing runny nose, sore or scratchy throat. This one blows my mind. The next one, sneezing.
Wow.
Almost never see that in viruses.
Really? And that's not a viral thing?
Not really.
Huh. Okay.
So that would make you think maybe that you were having allergies. I think your average person would think, oh, I'm sneezing. What's blooming?
If you're a virus and you want to spread, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant.
Wow.
No cough.
Huh.
Not really. Not really a kind of major component. Some body aches and headache, but profound fatigue.
Wow.
So, and weirdly, it's changed a little bit. If you look at the top symptoms in London or in England, British Isles, you see all that, but there's there's less of the fatigue. There's more fatigue, and that's the presenting symptom in South Africa. But there's more like body aches there. But the sneezing thing, I was like, what? So a lot of people come into the clinic, or they'll tell the receptionist, oh, I'm sneezing, I have a runny nose, it's my allergies.
Yeah, it's hay fever.
I want to come in and get my steroid shot, or something like that, which there's better ways to treat allergies. But I think that with the transmissibility of this, that one person who insists they're having allergies and comes into the clinic and ends up having Omicron is going to take out a whole clinic because of the transmissibility.
Right,
It's going to be
right.
huge.
Yeesh.
So understand that if you're being triaged to what we call the tent, and people have seen that on the side of UHS, and I think they also have a similar structure at Open Door, or
And
is
at-
it
and
a
at
similar
Sutter,
way
too.
of doing it? It's like a landing there, I think. You're still going to get the care you want. You don't have to not mention that you have all these other symptoms to get in the room and get our attention. Try and work with us here so that you don't take out an entire pod. Because if we have a documented exposure, we have to quarantine for 14 days. If we get sick, it seems to be not as serious a disease.
With
So
Omicron?
hospitalizations and deaths in general are not as high as Delta, but then we can't help you for 10 days. So-
right, exactly.
yeah.
Then in Delnor County, I mean, we could be down substantially if you take
Right.
out a whole clinic like that.
Right. So
Wow.
what I'm finding in clinic is people are coming in and saying, "Oh, it's my allergies or it's my ankle," and then once you get in the room, you find out the real thing, and by then, a number of people have been exposed, like in the waiting room,
Right,
the medical assistant, the receptionist, and the provider,
Yeah.
in the lab.
Yeah, that strikes me as really interesting and kind of frightening that people might actually feel the need to cover up their actual COVID symptoms in order to say, well, my God, if I tell them what I really got, they're not going
Right.
to see me.
I think that there's a couple of things at play. One is they don't recognize that. They'll say, "Well, I get a runny nose at Christmas every year,
Right.
and I must be allergic to mold or something." So they don't really recognize it. That's why I'm mentioning it now. And then the other thing is that I think some people hide symptoms because they're fearful they're not going to have their needs attended to, which is not happening. I mean, I can see people out. I go out there in my little spacesuit outside where it's safer, where the virus disperses by 80 to 90%, and I don't get in people's cars, although some providers do. But I do a comparable exam pretty much, while trying to maintain people's privacy and things like that.
I think we need to get a picture of you in your
spacesuit,
spacesuit.
yeah.
I really do, so that way we can tweet it out.
Sure, but I also think we need to,
That almost reminds me of, like, in 12-step programs when they say thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Which is
think
really,
it's-
really polite for
Or when a homeless
F off.
and a homeless person says, "God bless you."
God bless you. Yeah.
I actually think it's already been done. My mother wrote an article showing me in my spacesuit.
Oh, okay.
for
So
her
is there
okay,
a picture
okay.
that exists?
assisted living, newsletter. So
Yeah.
it's already been published. But yeah, sure. But my goal is, I take care of a lot of really sick elders. I take care of a lot of pregnant women. Don't put me in the position of being a super spreader event.
Yeah,
Please
yeah,
don't.
right. Well, all right. We have filled our time quota. Anything else? No. Well, she clammed up quick.
Yeah.
So
Sorry
radio-
about bringing up the spacesuit.
No, I was actually thinking about what I could talk about next time.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
I don't know, because a lot of times I try and stay current with what's in the news, and
I'm gonna wait and see what happens.
there's going to be a little pause, and it's going to hit us in, I think, at the end, probably the end of December, early January.
Do you think we'll see 41 deaths in the next wave?
No,
Yeah.
actually don't.
Yeah, that's a
I was
good.
fearful of that, but it doesn't look like hospitalizations. So what are our tools to keep that from happening? Vaccination, and now we know Paxlovid. And so I hope people wrote that down, and I hope we have availability here like they have in New York or San Francisco or LA.
Wow.
That would be super. And they are studying actually prophylactic,
Is it over the?
which is cool.
I'm sorry. They're studying prophylactic what?
They've got studies going on about prophylactic treatment. So it's their way of keeping their providers seeing people.
Gotcha. Okay. So is the antiviral drug, is that something that's over the counter or you need a prescription for at this point?
Of course, this is
Of course you
money.
need to bring.
And it's going to, I have this fear it's going to be expensive.
Uh-huh.
And are they going to make insurance pay for it? I hope so.
No.
I don't know.
Okay, all that I'm sure will be some sort of sorted out eventually. Lynn Szabo, thank you very much. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. We'll see you for next week's Health Matters.
Yep.